Hello everyone, this is Darion of GNB Productions, and today we'll be taking a look at Sonic Frontiers. Again. I promise to God I won't make this one 2 hours long this time. At the time of this video's release, let's hope it's not 4 months later this time, it has been a full year since the release of Sonic Frontiers, and it has been quite an eventful year at that. Pretty soon after the game's release, Sega and Sonic Team announced that the game would receive several updates, all with adding additional content for free. Yes, for free. You don't gotta pay a single dime for any of this shit. You buy the game, and all of this is readily available to you. Needless to say, that's pretty damn cool. This video is going to be me going over each update and capping it off with the final and most recent update, the Final Horizon update. The update that aims to fix many people's problem with the base game, that being the rushed and unsatisfying ending. So let's get into it and see just how much Sonic Frontiers has changed over the past year, shall we? The first update we received just 4 months after the game's release was the Sights, Speeds, and Sounds update. This update brings a bunch of new features and modes to the table. It features a Battle Rush mode, a Cyberspace Challenge mode, an Extreme Difficulty mode, as well as the addition of stuff like Photo Mode and a Jukebox. Honestly, this is probably the weakest of the updates for me, as some of the stuff added was stuff that should have been in the game at launch, like the Photo Mode. But better late than never, I guess. Anyway, the Challenge mode is pretty damn cool. It puts you in a boss rush type scenario where you're incentivized to defeat enemies within a certain time frame. The game puts you through each island and all of its enemies, and if you get an S rank, you unlock the next island. This, I'd say, was a pretty fun addition, as it allows you to get more into the game's combat. That is unless you were like me and maxed out all of your stats, making a lot of the enemies a giant cakewalk, but either way, I still thought it was pretty fun. I also like it because it's one of the many ways you can re-enjoy the Titan battles throughout the various updates. Getting an S rank on all of the islands in Battle Rush mode gives you access to what the game calls Extreme mode, where all your ring, speed, attack, and defense stats are permanently brought back to level 1, and every attack from an enemy is an instant kill. Needless to say, I found this mode to be pretty damn fun. It actually made combat more interesting and engaging, whereas in the normal mode it can be rather basic in my eyes. In my first Sonic Frontiers video, I mentioned how much I wasn't fond of cyberspace, and a whole year later, that still remains to be the case. The controls still feel like ass, but I mentioned how much fun they can be when not focusing on the various tasks and when you're just zooming from point A to point B. Enter Cyberspace Challenge mode, where your objective is to quickly race from point A to point B. Just like the Battle Rush mode, you're incentivized to get an S rank on each of the island's cyberspace stages. The reward you get for doing so is unlocking the power boost within cyberspace, which allows you to run faster than before. Needless to say, that's pretty damn cool. Cyberspace still sucks balls though. Another thing for S-ranking the Battle Rush and Cyberspace modes is you get these little trophies on the main menu. I just thought that was kind of cute. Like I mentioned earlier, we also got a photo mode, but not just any photo mode, a bad photo mode. Okay, I'm only slightly joking, because the photo mode ain't bad, but just kinda basic. Like, this really is the basic bitch of photo modes in video games, because it has a handful of filters, the camera movement isn't perfect as it is a tad limited, because for some fucking reason it gets stuck on the damn ground. But regardless, I still think it's cool to have here. Next thing added is a jukebox. With it, you'll be able to listen to different tracks from past Sonic games. But the coolest part about it is that you'll have to roam around the various islands to find these music notes to add more songs to the list. A lot of these songs being placed intentionally in certain locations that match it, and I find that to be cool as hell. With these first two updates, they added a few quality of life changes, which are kinda neat. This update was released while I was in the middle of editing my first Frontiers video, as midway through I complained about the Elder Cocoa requiring you upgrade one measly stat at a time. I put in a little anecdote that in this update this was fixed. Yep, now you have the option to upgrade one at a time or all at once. Needless to say, that's pretty damn cool. But that's not all that's changed. You now have an option to turn off and on the Starfall events. The events that brought up these slot machines for you to acquire fishing tokens that covered up half the screen. Yep, you can now disable it, which is pretty nice. That, as well as the power boost animation. As cool as it was pretty damn annoying when collecting more rings. It would just kind of spontaneously happen and interrupt the gameplay flow. And lastly, you're able to quickly restart cyberspace stages by performing a certain button combination. Once again, that's pretty cool. Overall, the sight, speeds, and sounds update was pretty good. Added a few new modes that were fun and gave more post-game content, which was nice. The quality of life stuff we got was pretty cool, I'd say. Only slightly improved some of the game's minor problems, but still pretty nice. Pretty good update. Now onto Sonic's Birthday Bash. Just 3 months after the first update, we were blessed with the Sonic Birthday Bash update, and it's fantastic. Like the name suggests, this update was released on Sonic's birthday. Because of this, we were greeted with this really cute birthday filter over all the islands, the obstacles, cosmetics, the cocoa, etc. And I think it's pretty cute. We were also blessed with this cool new tune that brings back a few Sonic's past music tracks. Once again, pretty cool. Once past all of that, we were gifted with some cool new additions, the Open Zone Challenge and the new Coco. Before release, I thought the new Coco were going to be the most boring shit in the game, only to be proven completely wrong. See, these new Coco, once brought to the Elder Coco, allows you to upgrade your boost meter, which is fine. I mean, if you didn't know you could do an infinite boost by just drawing an infinity symbol with the side loop, I guess this would be a cool thing to have. However, the best thing about the new Coco is that they come with these new obstacle course-like challenges across the islands. They are really damn fun, as they are quite challenging with needing to properly utilize the game's physics, which I'll get more into in just a bit. A lot of them are puzzle-based and require quick reaction times. It's a lot of fun. Another cool addition are the different activities you can do to 100% complete the islands. Yep, there are markers on the screen with the islands letting you know the different tasks you can do to 100% all of the islands for a special reward. The activities consist of completing the map, doing all the action challenges, collecting all the new Coco, and even collecting every single individual Coco on every single island. Fuck me. Well, once you go around and collect every single Coco, you receive the Frontier Elite skin, which is a crown. That's it. You couldn't have given dude like a cool looking cape at least, because this is just fucking lame. Well, moving on, there are as well new open zone challenges. Challenges spread all across the islands, where you aim to get the highest score as possible in a limited amount of time. You gain points from doing all sorts of shit. Running, fighting enemies, going on grind rails, you name it. And like the name suggests, these do get quite challenging. This is one of the few times in Sonic where an easy mode is useful, as putting it on easy will make the challenge less challenging. Okay, that may have sounded like a redundant thing to bring up, but this is Sonic we're talking about. This is the second game in a row where choosing between a difficulty didn't mean jack shit until very recently. Anyway, beating all of the open zone challenges grants you the iconic Spin Dash. I cannot stress enough how much of a literal game changer this one move is. See, a pretty big complaint when it came to base Frontiers was the lack of momentum. With this update, you are now able to modulate Sonic's deceleration, meaning you can adjust how quickly Sonic will lose his speed. This results in the Spin Dash being the best thing to use and abuse in Sonic history. I'm being so serious. Ever since acquiring it for the first time, I can't imagine playing this game any other way. Playing Sonic Frontiers without the Spin Dash makes me feel legitimately naked. My only issue with it is that most people playing for the first time won't have the luxury of acquiring it until they've probably already beaten the game. But not to worry, as there is a fix for that. Another addition the update brings is that of New Game Plus. Once beaten the game, you'll be given the option to make the save file you played on save clear data. Once you've made the save clear data, you'll be able to enter New Game Plus with that save file, carrying all of your stats and a completed skill tree. I love that this was implemented, but I will warn you, if you maxed out all of your stats, any combat encounter from start to finish, even the Titan battles, will be easy as piss. But because I'm a Sonic fan and therefore have severe mental issues, I went through the means of rectifying this little problem for myself. I started off with a completely new save file, which means, for a time, I had to play without my beloved Spin Dash. Anyway, I played without upgrading a single stat, so once I beat that save and made it save clear data, I went ahead and reclaimed my beloved Spin Dash, and upgraded my rings and speed to about level 50 or so. I then saved the game clear data in another save slot, and then play from that save file. Once I enter New Game Plus with that save file, I worked to only upgrade my strength and defense to about level 10 each. That way for me, there's a decent bit of challenge on each island from start to finish. This is why the stat system in this game is fucking stupid. I shouldn't have had to do all this BS just to provide myself with a decent challenge, whilst also retaining my beloved spin dash. If you're going to have a stat system in the next game, for the love of God, make the enemy strong enough to compensate for our skill level, instead of just having us be able to defeat them in a handful of hits. Jeez! Another minor quality of life change was the option to turn off and on the dramatic camera for Sonic's combat moves, which I find to be pretty neat. It only fixes my problem slightly with his moves feeling like short cutscenes, but it's a nice addition. I mainly utilize it by having it off in the open zone, but turning it back on for the climactic Titan battles, as they look a tad awkward when they're turned off in those fights. So, that was Sonic's Birthday Bash update. In hindsight, even though I said the first one was my least favorite, I might have to change my mind and give that title to this one. It's not bad by any means. The open zone challenges are fun, the obstacles for the new Coco are great, and the spin dash, while not perfect because it kind of operates as a faster boost, is still a literal game changer that I cannot imagine playing this game without. But the amount of content they added in compared to the first just wasn't as interesting, I'd say. Now, it's time for the big kahuna. The one we've all been waiting for. The final Horizon update. The update that brings us more story and more playable characters. Needless to say, this was the one on people's minds the most, and rightfully so. After literal years, we have Tails, Amy, and Knuckles playable in a 3D Sonic game. And I swear to God, if one of you little shits says something about Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric, I will find you and hurl a damn brick at your head. Not only that, but also attempting to fix the rushed as hell and anticlimactic ending of the base game. You access the final Horizon story once you enter Aranos Island. You will be notified of a ring portal at the beginning of the island, and once entering, you'll be put onto another story path. I feel they need to preface that the base game's ending is still fully intact. This is quite literally just another story you have the option of playing through, and I'm kinda thankful for that. Because that way, one ending doesn't take more importance over the other. If you are among the few who like the OG game's ending, it's still there for you to go back to. I remember up to the game's release, folks thought the OG ending would get completely deleted from the game, and I gotta say, I'm glad that didn't happen, because that'd be a ridiculous decision. I'll go over all the story stuff after talking about the gameplay, and what better way to start off than with the new characters. I have quite a lot to say about these guys. Firstly, it's a relief to see that they all play roughly similarly to Sonic. They can all boost, double jump, etc. But they also have their few little quirks, which is nice. Tails can obviously fly, Knuckles can glide and kinda climb, I'll get into him in just a bit, and Amy has a triple jump that can end off in a hover glide move. Each character has their own unique skills in a skill tree, but it's kinda weird, as you'll have to unlock basic moves like homing attack, stomp, and a basic punch. The skill trees for these guys really bother me, as compared to Sonic, a lot of the moves you unlock aren't that combat oriented. I'll be honest and say that I looked at some leaks that were made public long before this update's release, and in the leaks, it showed that the skill trees for Tails, Amy, and Knuckles all had 15 slots, the same number of moves Sonic had on his skill tree. So you can imagine my disappointment when a good percentage of moves on the skill tree are basic shit that Sonic had unlocked automatically. Like, why the fuck is jump on a skill tree? It's a fucking jump! So, out of the 15 or so moves on each character's skill tree, not counting the basic shit that shouldn't even be on it and should be a part of our natural moveset to begin with, like the jump, boost, parry, etc., we have a total of 4 to maybe 6 actual combat moves for each character. Yeah, that's kinda lame. Given how simple this game's combat already is, you'd think that giving these guys more combat-oriented abilities would have been easy. Why does Sonic have a 5-hit combo while Knuckles only has 3? Anyway, some of the moves given to these guys are weird. Knuckles can do his punches, Tails can throw wrenches for some reason. Like, seriously, you couldn't have given him some cool tech bombs or something? Why wrenches? And Amy, of course, has her iconic cards! You've gotta be fucking kidding me. Look, I know the tarot cards have been a part of her character since her inception, and I'm happy to see them make a return in certain media. This, however, I think is going a tad too damn far. How do you completely remove such an iconic weapon for this character in favor of some dumbass cards? I'm not even exaggerating. There is literally no move on this tree where we attack with her hammer. It's all just these damn cards. Whatever. Fine. The combat for these guys ain't all that. Is there anything else? Why, yes. Throughout the island, there are various obstacle courses and platforming challenges catered to each of the characters. In these, you'll be able to get skill points to unlock stuff on the skill tree, unlock more of the map, etc. But the main objective for each character is going through these specific obstacles to acquire Chaos Emeralds from Sonic, while he and Sage find a new way to defeat the end. And they're pretty fun, I'd say. All of the characters' movesets are properly utilized, like Amy's triple jump, Knuckles' glide and climbing, which is nice. While on that, there are a few things I gotta get off my chest for each character specifically. Amy is fine to play as. Her jump is pretty cool, it allows for a lot of cool platforming moments. No real complaints here. Tails and Knuckles, though. See, look, control-wise, these guys are fine. But starting off with Knuckles, I got a few issues. Firstly, no, you can't climb freely on just any wall, which we honestly should have expected. These guys weren't really built for this game, so while a little disappointing, it does make sense. He is, however, mainly relegated to these red climbable walls, which are a bit finicky, as if you touch a single thing that's not a part of the red wall, you'll drop like a fucking rock, which makes some of the platforming challenges unnecessarily annoying. Knuckles also has his iconic glide ability, but there is a bit of a problem. For a game that almost perfected the way Sonic controls, it's a shame that when gliding as Knuckles, we unfortunately return to the tanky and stiff-ass controls we've accustomed to. Why the hell is it so hard for Knuckles to turn? It makes gliding around as him a giant pain in the ass, seriously. What makes it worse, and this applies to the climbing as well, whenever the camera changes positions, the controls automatically invert. Which means if you're gliding or climbing as Knuckles, whenever you change the position of the camera, the controls will for some reason invert, and this just makes Knuckles' wall and air control a fucking nightmare. He also does this weird-ass startup animation before doing a glide, which just kills all sense of flow in gameplay. Tails is significantly less problematic, but still a bit iffy. He has his flight ability, except he never gains any height. For some reason, there's a limit to how high he can go, so he's kind of just stuck floating there. Come on, fly, you lazy bitch! It's mainly a problem because it can be a little hard to properly articulate yourself when doing his little obstacles, as when he flies, he shoots up and he's just stuck in midair. Anyway, the newer characters, even with the weird-ass combat moves and off controls, they're still fun to play at the end of the day. I'm glad they were brought back even if they aren't perfect. I'd still say they're a welcome addition, even with their faults. Tails also doesn't have a homing attack like Knuckles, Sonic, and Amy, which I'm a tad iffy on. I respect the attempt to not make every character feel the same, but the homing attack is kinda essential to this game's gameplay formula. So him not having one instead being replaced with the wrenches makes a few of the platforming with him a bit weird. Something else I want to talk about is their power boost adjacent. In the base game, when Sonic maxed out his ring count, he acquired something called a power boost, where he could boost faster. The newer characters also got that same treatment, but with their own unique twists, which I like. Amy rides her broom like a damn witch hammer in a giant card wheel. Oh, come on! Knuckles can turn into a drill as his power boost adjacent, and Tails has the coolest one. The fucking SA2 Cyclone that allows you to fly across the entire island. This thing is so fucking broken as they didn't take account for the fact that if you do the infinity thing with the Psyloop, you'll basically be able to fly around limitlessly for a brief period. Needless to say, that's pretty damn cool. A big problem with this though, and this cleverly segues into a big issue with this update and Sonic Frontiers as a whole. That being, the pop-in. Since this game launched, and hell, even before it dropped, the pop-in has been a severe problem. And even a whole year later, it still hasn't been fixed. Which is quite sad, honestly. Modders managed to fix this shit almost day one, yet they couldn't do it in a full year. The reason this is a problem is because basically, it just makes the game look like shit. Having random assets just pop in out of thin air is just kinda ugly. It's even worse with the Final Horizon update, however, because of all the newly added platforming segments for Tails, Amy, and Knuckles. There is a bunch more shit just floating awkwardly in midair, which leads to more gross and ugly pop-in. This just makes the game look more unprofessional than before. It's quite sad this has yet to be fixed, even after a full year. Sonic as well has quite a bit to do, as he has to climb up several towers and go through several trials in order to acquire a new power that will help defeat the end. This, I think, is the best time to bring up another issue with the base game that this update aims to address, that being the difficulty. This game got a lot of shit from Sonic fans, rightfully so, I'd say, for being pretty damn easy. Them motherfuckers at Sonic Team basically said, "Fuck you guys," and gave us a 5 to 6 hour long collective kick to the nuts. For starters, the towers. The towers in this update, at least the first two, will fuck you up. The towers on Ria Island were fairly simple, but in the off chance you found yourself falling from the top, there would be added shortcuts to help you get back up and continue your progress. Not only are the towers in this update more platform oriented and requiring a lot of precise fucking platforming and movements, when you fall, you fucking fall, and your ass is gonna have to start all the way from the damn beginning. When I tell you I had a damn heart attack running through these on my first go, it's no exaggeration. These towers will stress you the fuck out. You'll be praying to God that you won't slip up and fall at every single turn. The thing I love most about these towers is that while they are difficult, no exaggeration, they are some of the best platforming I've ever played in a Sonic game. I already love the towers on Ria, but level design wise, these somehow manage to be even more fun. The trials once you get to the top of each tower, however, sure are something. Well, the first two will be pretty difficult, as your stats are brought to level 1 and you'll have to fight these souped up and speedy enemies. It's pretty fun. The second one is a little weird. See, people say you're meant to stand at a distance from the pedal enemies, so they throw their shield at you. But then you're meant to homing attack and parry away the shield before it comes back. This move is so damn specific and is never required anywhere else in the game that it feels like a fucking cheat. I don't care if you people say it was intentionally designed that way, that's fucking bullshit and you know it. The following towers and trials strangely ease up on the difficulty, which leads me to believe they got mixed up during development. Before going into the one that really fucked people up, I gotta say, the base enemies you encounter in this mode are fucking relentless, and not in a fun way. They're stronger, faster, way more tankier, and nearly impossible to beat. It makes the newer characters' lack of interest in combat even more frustrating, because if I'm struggling as a maxed out Sonic, you know for a fact none of these fucking goobers are going to stand a chance against these enemies. I will say though, I do admire that compared to Sonic, their moves feel far less cinematic and just feel like regular combat moves. I just found that to be pretty neat. Anyway, the final trial tower involves you fighting all of the previous Titans in a boss rush, where all your stats are brought back to level 1 and you can't replenish your rings. Now, it sounds fairly simple, but something I didn't mention about each tower up to this point is that more often than not, you will be doing one specific move, the parry. Each trial, except the second one, I don't give a fuck, that is not how they intended that shit to be beat. Up to this point, was reliant on the parry in some form or fashion. Now, in the final trial, you are gifted with something the game calls the perfect parry. Basically, instead of being able to hold the parry indefinitely like the base game, it'll actually require proper timing. Basically how a normal fucking parry should work. Now, this is something that folks, including myself, have complained about since launch. The parry is broken as shit, and largely, this is not how a parry should work. The steps they took to try and fix this, though, leave me a tad mixed. Now, the perfect parry requires actual precise timing. That's good. Except when the parry animation lasts for a fucking millisecond in boss fights that were not designed for near frame-perfect timing in a fight where you're on the clock and once you fail, you'll have to start all the way from the fucking beginning. That's bad. People give this update's difficulty and this trial in particular a lot of shit, and while some of it is justified in my eyes, I think it's fairly doable. I got through it lucky enough on my first try. The biggest obstacle you're gonna have to face is Wyvern, because like I said, this damn thing is literally frame perfect. That just goes to show how these bosses weren't designed for this style of parry. Funny enough, once you lower the difficulty to easy mode, the parry animation will last for a handful of seconds. And I feel like this should have been how it is at its default. Another thing that frustrates me is that even though they attempted to fix people's problem with the parry, the problem still isn't even fixed. The perfect parry is literally only available to you in the final horizon part of the game, whereas the base game still has an overpowered parry. Seriously, why the fuck couldn't they have just made this another option in the fucking menu? The inclusion of the perfect parry is a bit weird, but it still kinda works in my opinion. Something that's strangely got improved ever so slightly is cyberspace. Unfortunately, the controls are still ass, but cyberspace was given a lot more variety in this update. In cyberspace, you're given various tasks to do, and each one grants you a lookout cocoa, which are used to unlock the trial towers. Thankfully, like the base game, if you don't like cyberspace, it's completely optional. As in my first playthrough, I didn't touch a single one, and just found a bunch of lookout cocoa scattered across the island. Anyway, these cyberspace stages vary between objectives, level design, etc. You'll have some where you're tasked with rescuing little animals, which is cute. You'll have a few where you'll be racing a shadow version of Tails for some reason. You'll have some where you'll get an extra speedy rocket boost. There will be one with moon gravity, for some reason. You'll have some where you're tasked with collecting these medals, and they're all pretty fun. I'm surprised to say that the level design of these stages are fucking fantastic. While not perfect, as for some of the level design, it involves you flying over a good portion of them, these stages are packed to the brim with lots of cool branching and hidden pathways, much like the adventure games. I also love how a lot of these are heavily momentum based, as you'll mainly be able to progress from spin dashing off of ramps, rail launching. There are moments where you can run through loops with no need for dash panels, etc. I've been replaying these stages a bunch, and I'm surprised to see there are still paths and stuff I have yet to discover. You have no idea how satisfying it is after all these years to get new Sonic stages that require a bit more involvement than just running in a straight line. Between the new towers and the new cyberspace level design, I'm very hopeful for the future of 3D Sonic platforming. So, after all the friends get the emeralds and Sonic acquires the new power, we go off to face Supreme. And he's still easy as shit. But we are then introduced to the End, who connects the Supreme as its avatar. And now, the true final battle begins. All of the trials, all of the tribulations have been preparing you for this moment. And it's fucking amazing. No lie or exaggeration. This is probably one of the best Sonic final bosses in the whole damn series. It greatly carries over the momentum brought up by the previous Titan fights. The perfect parry is actually quite useful here. Because this fight was actually designed for it. The Supreme End, shout out to RaiRai for the kick-ass name, shoots out these orbs that you will have to parry. And if you fail to parry them and the orbs hit you, it'll decrease your ring count even further. Which is so fucking cool. I might as well bring this up now, but in this update, we were graced with a new powerful form for Sonic. That being Super Sonic 2. That's not its official name, but fans found it labeled as that in the source code, so it's as close to an official name as we're going to get. And it's just Super Sonic with a red aura and blue eyes instead of red. Kinda lame, not gonna lie. Either way, this form and this fucking boss fight in general kicks so much ass. I love how the End transforms Supreme into this fucking creepy and grotesque and animalistic form. Having Sonic's side loop effect being fucking crushing this thing is sick as hell. The Supreme End launches a giant energy ball at Sonic and company, only for Sonic to get knocked out of his super form and lose rings, only for him to bounce right back and power back up again. He's so fucking cool!
Oh my god, he's so goddamn cool!
Having the battle end with Eggman taking Supreme's gun, Sonic going into it in order to use himself as the bullet, like it's the fucking Blue Typhoon from Sonic X, and having him unleash all of his power with him looking like fucking Fleetway Supersonic and shoot through Supreme and the End? Good lord, I couldn't have imagined a more climactic and satisfying conclusion to a game like this. Even though everything beforehand was kinda all over the place and the difficulty in some spots may be a bit much for some, I still think it's worth it to experience this brilliantly handled climax. Okay, so in the middle of me editing this video, they decided to give us a patch for the update that fixed a few issues I had but also caused a few more. For starters, thank God they fixed Knuckles' glide. He no longer feels like a tank. Thank fucking God. The perfect parry as well got a few tweaks, so it's no longer a single frame on hard mode, which I greatly appreciate. The towers as well got even easier in easy mode for the folks crying about how hard they were, so there you go. But something they tweaked that I have a problem with is the character's combat. Now, for some reason, when they heard that the combat for this update was too hard, instead of working to make things more balanced, they went ahead and made things piss easy. Now, with Tails, Amy, and Nux, any enemy you encounter can just be defeated in a handful of hits. You don't even gotta be maxed out in terms of stats for these guys to go down. When we said we wished it was easier, that didn't mean we wanted the enemies to be made out of fucking paper mache. What makes it worse is that Sonic is almost untouched in this patch, yet everyone else can just breathe on an enemy and they're fucking dead. It makes the combat feel unnecessarily inconsistent and it just pisses me off. Not even in the base game did a fully maxed out Sonic manage to beat enemies this quickly. What the fuck? To go over the story briefly, there's not that much to discuss. I think the writing is pretty good, though going from Raya to this and having what would seem to be a pretty big moment be undone may seem a tad awkward, but honestly, to me, it's whatever. I like how Sonic is written to be a bit more sassy this time. I miss when Sonic had his edge, and it's nice to see it return in this update. We see Amy's leadership tendencies shine a bit more, which is nice. We get to see a bit more of a dynamic with Tails and Knuckles, which is greatly appreciated. I'll say, given the new ending not having Sage sacrifice herself, I get what people mean by saying her arc is slightly ruined, as the sacrifice was an integral part of her story, which is why I'm glad the OG ending is still around for people to enjoy. The end sucked as a villain when Frontiers first launched, and still sucks as a villain a whole year later. Though it's cool to see it was built up a bit more in this climax compared to the last. The story for this update is fairly simple, but the character writing is pretty good. The optional character dialogues elaborate on a bunch of the lore, which was greatly appreciated. The story was pretty good. Now for the music. Sweet Mother Mary Joseph, the music. The Paths Revisited tracks are fucking phenomenal. Oh my god. The themes for each of the new characters are great. Yet they can be tiresome after a certain point because they literally loop, but I think all of them are great. From best to worst, for me, we have Knuckles' theme, Blood Flow.
Time to take it slow. Let the blood inside you flow. Find the way to the unknown. Yeah, trust yourself and let it go. Oh.
Then there's Amy's theme, Maybe If.
If you trust your colors, there could be another future waiting for you.
Then lastly, Tails' theme, Another Passage. This one is the weakest because it's just the most forgettable for me.
If you really want it, go and take your chances. Anything could happen. Wisdom's your advantage.
But the creme de la creme of the characters' themes has to be Sonic's theme, Second Wind. And oh my goodness! All the other tracks are great, but the absolute standout has to be the remix of I'm Here by Kellen fucking Quinn.
I'm here, reaching far across these new frontiers. With my life, I fight this fear. In my hands, I hold the ones I love. Walk forward through the countdown. Always to new horizons.
I already loved the original I'm Here, but this shit literally gave me fucking goosebumps while playing during that final boss fight. It was fucking phenomenal. And I think that about does it. That was the final Horizon update. It attempted to fix a lot of the base game's issues, and I think it kinda succeeded. It gave us multiple playable characters, but they were overall just okay additions, as you can't really do anything interesting combat-wise because all the moves are so basic and can't properly deal with these souped-up enemies like Sonic can. They're relegated only to the final horizon part of the game, so you can't even play them in the other islands, which is a little disappointing. The added platforming segments and challenges are fun, but just add more clutter to the open zone and makes the pop-in issue even worse. It just makes the presentation for the game a bit worse. I'm glad they were brought back, and while they were still fun to play as, guys like Tails and Knuckles could have been done a bit better, and I hope to see them improve upon this in the future. The new cyberspace stages were really fun, as well as the towers. While difficult, they are still some of the most fun platforming you'll ever have in a Sonic game. And that as well gives me hope for stuff that they can do in the future. The climax was brilliantly executed. It was an amazing improvement over what we had in the base game. Topped with absolutely phenomenal music and a pretty decent story, I think Sonic Frontiers has greatly improved since launch. I've seen some people torn about the canonicity of the two endings to see which one is really canon, and I gotta ask, why does it fucking matter? I like that both of these endings hold no greater importance over the other. It especially doesn't matter which one is canon or not because technically the endings are roughly the same. Sage and Eggman work with Sonic and Co. to defeat the End. They succeed, and Sage is shown to be alive. I don't think there really needs to be any more elaboration than that. This update is by no means perfect, as I brought up multiple times in this video, but when all is said and done, this was a great way to end Frontiers. I think this update, as well as the previous ones, not only marks Frontiers as a slightly improved gaming experience, but also marks a pretty hopeful future for the Blue Hedgehog going forward. So, with all that said, if you agree or disagree with anything I said in this video, let me know right down there in the comments below. Also, be sure to like and subscribe. This is Darion with GNB Productions, and take care.